So food freedom is something that a lot of emotional eaters want, but what really is a food freedom? So today we're going to explore that. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. So today I thought I would talk about food freedom. And so this is not a term I normally use with clients. I like the word food sovereignty because we need to have food in our lives. We can't be free of food. We can't ever exist without food. It's not something we can take away. But because we've had this relationship with food as emotional eaters, it feels like for so long we haven't had control of food. We want to get rid of it. We want to have this freedom around it. What I like to use instead is food sovereignty. And the reason I use that is because it makes you have sovereignty around food. So you can choose, you have choice. You are not completely free of food. You have choice, you have discernment, and you can choose foods that are going to nourish you or not nourish you. But you don't have to be free of food because it's not possible. So this is something that clients eventually get to. And food freedom actually is a term that's used a lot with intuitive eating. And intuitive eating is not something I recommend to emotional eaters because it misses out key things that are needed to help them move through their emotional eating, to help them move past this sort of addictive coping mechanism. And so intuitive eating uses a lot of food freedom terminology. And that's why I like to differentiate it because, it's different when you actually get to the roots of your emotional eating and resolve it from there. You're going to have sovereignty around food and you're going to make choices that your body is telling you to make versus what you think you should make, or getting confused between your emotional eating sort of cues and your actual intuitive cues. So being sovereign around food. So what does that look like? So when I work with clients inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program, they get to a point in the program where they are now actively choosing the foods that they're eating and they're noticing a difference in the choices they're making. Because when we start working on your emotional eating pattern, what happens is that you start detaching from food as something that you go to soothe or numb out from, because you're starting to learn when you're truly hungry versus emotionally hungry, and you're meeting those deeper needs. As you detach from food being this soothing mechanism, this numbing, having this numbing effect or distraction for you, you start tuning into your body and realizing that your body has certain needs. And so to be fully transparent within my program, because we are looking at emotional eating from several layers, we are reconnecting back to food. So my clients are learning how to start implementing nourishing ways of being with food, and I give them a specific structure to flow from. So they have, they start tapping into and trying out different foods to see how it feels for them. The foods and the meals are optimized so that they digest well, because a lot of the times emotional eaters have digestive issues. And so we're making the foods digest well so that you can absorb the nutrients. We're checking in for flavor and taste and all of this, but there's a structure to learn to create meals around. And what a lot of the times clients have happen as they move through the program, as they're detaching from food as this soothing mechanism to actually something that nourishes them and picking up them on their body's cues, they start shifting the way they're eating. They start craving fresh fruits and vegetables and things, whole foods that feel good in their body, because now they can discern fruit from emotional hunger, and they know that they can actually meet their true needs, their emotional needs, or whatever that emotional hunger is sort of bringing up. They know how to be with that versus piling some food on top of it, which are usually processed foods, and sort of numbing out. And so this is what creates food sovereignty, because we're now able to identify this is emotional eating versus this is true hunger. That's one big discernment we need to have. So we need to tap into that. The second thing that happens is that as we discern that, we can meet the needs of the emotional hunger, not use the coping mechanism of food. And we can also start looking at our behavior around food. And so we can start optimizing that, because sometimes our habits around food are not serving our body. So if we're skipping meals, we're restricting calories, we're, cutting out macros or fasting or doing things that are not in alignment to our body, that creates sort of that shameful talk and that diet mentality that can trigger emotional eating. So we're looking at creating a way that's in alignment for your body of nourishing yourself once we can discern true from emotional hunger and really meeting those deeper needs. And so that, as we practice that more and more, we can discern and see where we're wanting food, when we're truly hungry. What are the foods that feel good to us? And this is the beautiful part. Sometimes, in the past, if you were triggered and you're going towards certain foods, you're going towards processed foods to soothe yourself, to numb out. And a lot of the times with intuitive eating, those signals of true and emotional hunger are just mixed up. You're just grabbing whatever food pops into your mind. Here, let's say a craving, or what you would think a craving is coming up. You can actually move through and see if it's an emotional hunger or true hunger, and sort of eliminate if it is an emotional hunger. And if you have a genuine desire for that food, you can then choose, I'm going to have that food, knowing the consequences of having that food. So you might choose something that it just purely tastes good, but you might have a stomachache after, or it tastes good but it's not the best thing for you to eat nutritionally, but you can choose it, and you don't want to choose it all the time. This is a one-off thing. So this comes in handy around the holidays. This comes in handy at special occasions where you have autonomy, you have sovereignty around the food. You can have it or not have it, and there's no guilt attached. There's no shame attached to it. And because you're sovereign around it, and you accept the consequences of that action. And this reduces so much shame and guilt and spiraling that can trigger emotional eating. And as you do this more and more, you realize most of the time your body is actually wanting those nourishing foods. It doesn't want, the processed foods, because it was only going after those foods to fill that void, to numb out, to distract from whatever emotions or discomfort that were coming up. And so this is something that is so important to hone. And you can see that it is multi-layered. We're looking at your relationship to food. We're looking at how food feels in your body and nourishes you, while we're discerning what is emotional hunger and meeting those true needs. So this is how we actually create true, if I were to use the word food freedom, but we can't be free of food sovereignty. And so I see this with clients time and time again, and it's really amazing. And this is what creates that healthy relationship to food and makes us feel empowered. And so this is something that we do inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program. We're looking at 3 key areas this is sort of interwoven into, but here I've given you 2 main areas around food, our relationship to food, and our emotions. The third area is our relationship to our body. And so if you are interested in starting this journey and starting to resolve your emotional eating from the root, I'd love to invite you to grab my free guide called What Are You Truly Hungry For? In this guide, it will give you the steps to start discerning true from emotional hunger so that you can start getting a handle on your emotional eating and start on that path to food sovereignty. It also gives you prompts to start catching your triggers so that your true and emotional hunger are really clear from a body perspective, and just seeing what situations are happening that might be triggering you. So if you'd like that free guide, you can find it below. If you are interested in working with me inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program, you can also find out more about the program below. This is the in-depth program that helps you move through this process, getting to food sovereignty by supporting you, by giving you in-depth tools and coaching to get you from A to B, to get you to that food sovereignty, to feeling at ease and peace and confident around food and in your body. So you can find out more at the links below. And if you have any questions about what I've shared today, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you. I hope you have a great day.